Welcome back to Life Odysseys. Kind of a cloudy day here in eastern Kentucky. Temperatures are nice. It's going to get a little bit of rain, but can't go forever without having rain. So I'm out here behind the shop, and of course you know who I'm with, Maggie, somewhere around here. There she is. Say hi, Maggie. She ain't gonna say nothing. She likes hanging out here with Dad. So today we're going to talk about my final full season driving for my father, Jack, in the 1996 ARCA season. It was a season that was kind of drug out a little bit. We lacked a lot of funds. Our money from our previous sponsor had dried up in 1995, so 96 was kind of a tough year. And we'll get into that here in just a minute. So sit back and enjoy, and I'll be with you just a second. I'm going to find me a nice place to sit down, and we'll get into talking about it. Welcome back. Me and Maggie's sitting back here behind the shop / garage. This is a good place to sit down, have a talk, tell the story of the 1996 ARCA season, which was my final season driving full time for my father, Jack. I had started driving in the middle of 1988 and ran every season, full season, through the 96 season. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, go down race by race, and of course I got my notes, and discuss some of the races and some of the things that happened during the year, and some of the things that made my decision to quit driving for my father at the end of 96. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, our sponsorship had dried up the year before, 1995. So 96, we was kind of getting sponsorship money from whoever we knew, and just shaking hands and trying to get a few dollars here and there to pay for things. And that was like it was when I first started. And it's really difficult to try to do it that way. But we managed to scrape things together and was able to race. But 96 wasn't really a good year. We finished second in points. But, I'll go down through here and explain some of the races and tell some other stuff that goes along with that season. So start out at Daytona, of course, in February of 96. It says we qualified 7th and ended up 40th. Well, I remember that pretty well. We didn't last but a few laps, and the engine went sour. So my day at Daytona and career at Daytona was didn't end on a very good note. So then we go to my old dreaded Atlanta track. It says here we was on the pole and finished 5th. I think we may have started that race by points from the previous year because of weather. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. But, we had a top 5 finish at Atlanta, if you can believe it. Ran well all day, stayed near the front, and come out with a top 5, which is hard to believe for Atlanta. But sooner or later, the odds, you got to have a good finish somewhere that you're not, having any good finishes at. So we finally end up having a good finish. So then we go to Salem, and we started 4th and finished 4th. Another solid day for us on the short tracks, another top 5, and it was a good day. Then we go to Talladega. We started 15th and ended up 11th. So really not that great of a race at Talladega like we normally have, but we finished the race and come away with almost a top 10. But it was a good day for us, apparently. We didn't have any trouble. Come home with a decent finish and went on to the next one. Then it says we go to Pensacola. It says started on the pole and finished 2nd. Another good day on a short track for us. Pensacola was a lot of fun to race on. And during the course of the year, I ended up with 6 pole positions, which was the highest of any of drivers in ARCA at that year. So then we go to Louisville. It says here we started on the pole and finished first. Louisville was a good track for us. Like, I'm pretty sure we ran there 3 times and I won 2 of them. So good day at Louisville. It was somewhat like Killcare, shaped a little bit like Killcare, but yeah, Louisville was a good racetrack for us. Then apparently we ran a pair of races at Charlotte in May of that year. The first race, it says we qualified 13th and ended up 14th. I really don't remember too much about them races. I didn't really have much luck at Charlotte. I don't, ran decent, but just not good enough. The second race, we qualified 11th and ended up 16th. So another so-so run. But apparently, we finished, and I guess car was in one piece, and we went to the next one. Killcare was our next race, and it says here we qualified 3rd and ended up 5th. Another solid day for us on the short tracks. Killcare was always, like I said before, was our home track, about a half hour from the shop. So it was important to run good at Killcare for the home fans. Then we go to Flat Rock. It says we started on the pole and ended up 13th. I don't remember what happened there. We always qualified well at those race tracks, but I don't know what happened at Flat Rock that night to make us finish 13th, but it is what it is. Then we go to Pocono. Pocono, we started 20th and ended up 9th. Another fair day. It was a top 10. Decent race for us. Pocono was off and on track for me, but 9th, you take it and go home. Michigan, dreaded Michigan. We never had no luck at Michigan either. It says qualified 12th and ended up 25th, and I got written down here engine. So another engine failure. It was just, hard on the engine, especially when you didn't have any money, and trying to do it on a shoestring. It just made it very difficult to do. And to turn the engines like you need to turn them to make any horsepower, this stuff just couldn't take it. Then we go back to Flat Rock. It says we qualified 7th and ended up 2nd. Not a very good qualifying run for us, but we ended up, 2nd in the race. Don't really remember too much about that race other than it was a good short track for us, and we seemed to do well at Flat Rock and those kind of racetracks. Then we go to Toledo. It says we started on the pole and finished 2nd. Another good solid run for us at Toledo. Mentioned it before. My brother Jim and my dad, they've both won races at Toledo. My uncle Tom, he's won a race at Toledo. So Toledo has been a good racetrack for the family. Then we go back to Pocono. It says we qualified 9th and ended up 9th. Another decent day. Really, we didn't gain any positions from our starting spot, but at least we finished the race, and it was another top 10. Then we go to Michigan, and I complained a lot about Michigan, but that day says we qualified 11th and we finished 5th. So it was a good day for us at Michigan. Unlike the rest of them, we either had engine trouble or something stupid, but that particular day we ran good and ran near the front and ended up with a top 5. And Michigan, like I said before, Michigan and Texas World Speedway, those tracks are similar, and I really loved running on them, but just not a lot of luck at those places. Then we go to the Indy Fairgrounds, Indiana State Fairgrounds in Indianapolis, a mile dirt. This is when things really started to change as far as the season goes, or as far as my decision on what I was going to do next. Excuse me. Up until this point, like I said before, the money was tight. We didn't have no solid sponsorship, so things was not looking good. And the trouble with it was, I seen the handwriting on the wall that if things didn't turn around as far as money goes, I was in a situation where I wasn't going to get any better. And Gary, he's the one that brought this up, but he calls it the crossroads. It's when you get to a spot where you're better than the stuff that you're sitting in, but you don't have any money to make yourself or make the stuff better for you to run better. And that's really 96. That's what it amounts to. Was a big crossroads for me as a driver. And Indy kind of put the nail in the coffin on me driving for Dad anymore, because I just knew things wasn't going in the right direction. So it says here we qualified 9th and finished 39th. I remember I got into the fence on the dreaded turn 2, like I talked in previous videos about Dad telling me to be careful coming off of 2 because it's dark over there and you run out of racetrack. Well, I hit the fence and I got the car up on its left side and slid down the racetrack on the left side of the race car. And I don't know how far I went, but it didn't turn over on its top. It ended up landing back down on its wheels, and I came to a rest on the inside of the guardrail down on the bottom of the racetrack. So I remember this very well. I sit there, looked straight ahead, had my arms crossed on my chest, and was doing a lot of thinking right at that present time. Gary and they was on the radio wanting to know if I was all right. And I didn't answer. I should have answered because, to let them know I was fine. But I just didn't want to speak to nobody right then. I just wanted those few minutes or minute or whatever it was by myself to take in and think about this deal. So I got out and I walked across the infield to go back to the pit area and get back to the truck. And I remember Dad approached me, and you just had to know him. He didn't ask me if I was all right or anything. He says, "Do you want to you want to fix it so you can get back out there and finish the race?" And I said, "Absolutely not, Dad." I told him, I said, "Dad," this is pretty much word for word. I said, "Dad," and there's probably a lot of people that don't know this, and if they watch this video, they're going to know. I said, "Dad, I'm going to tell you right now," I said, "this ain't fun anymore." I said, things just ain't going the way they need to be going, and this is just not fun anymore. So I left it at that and went and changed my clothes, and that was the end of that deal. But a lot of the decision between that Indy race and the Salem race in the fall, I did a lot of thinking. And with the lack of sponsorship money and not knowing where the program was going to go in the future, I thought a lot about, do I want to spend my time doing what I'm trying to do here and not being able to see my daughter grow up, because she was, she'd have been 6 years old or getting ready to turn 6. And there was things, she was starting school, and there was things I knew she was wanting to play volleyball and all that. And I knew that if you race, you got to put 100% of your time and focus on racing, not anything else. And with the lack of sponsorship and the way things was going, I had to really make a hard decision. And my daughter she was part of that big decision, because I didn't want to grow up and not see her grow up and see things she's done or did. Because the problem with it is you don't never get that time back. So it weighed on me, and I'll let you know what I decided, which you already know what I decided, but it really didn't come to a conclusion till later on here in this season. So then we go to DeGraff, which is not far from our track, from our shop. But it says here we qualified first and we won the race. DeGraff, I think I ran up there twice and won them both. Of course, I wasn't driving for Dad the next year, so somebody else won. I don't know who it was. So then we go to Springfield on the mild dirt in Springfield, Illinois. It says here we qualified qualified seventh and ended up second. I think we finished second to Tim Steele that day. We just didn't quite have enough to contend for the win, but we ran a good race and come away with another top 5 finish. So it was a good day for us. It seemed like I did really well on the dirt tracks, except for like Indy I was talking about. But for the most part, Springfield and DuQuoin, I really ran good at. And it was fun racing on the dirt. So then we go to another dirt track in DuQuoin, Illinois, which is in southern Illinois. And it says here we qualified 8th and finished 3rd. Don't remember too much about this race other than it had to be a good race for us. We finished 3rd, stayed up near the front most of the day, and come home with another top 5 finish. Then it says here we go to Killcare. Killcare, this is my last time at Killcare. So the car that we ran at Indy and the dirts, we called it our V6 car, but we ran the V8 in it on the dirts. But that was my short track car that we ran everywhere with the V6. So by me tearing it up in Indianapolis, we had to go back to our other short track car, which was strictly a V8 car, and that's what we had to take to Killcare. And we had been running the V6 car, so not sure how it was going to happen or how we was going to do. But we qualified on the pole, and we ended up winning the race. So that was my last win in the ARCA series, was at Killcare. There again, not to throw any bad emotions or anything out there on this situation, but that was another one of them races where Dad, he was upset at the end of the race because we won. I have no idea why he was like that. It was just crazy to me. Most of the time when you did good, he wasn't happy. I don't get it. And then when you did bad, he was happy. So if you can figure that one out, you can let me know. So then we go to Salem, and this is where it all came to an end for me. There again, a lot of people don't know this, and really, there's only one person, my ex-wife, really knew what transpired, and she probably was the only one that knew, unless she told somebody. I have no idea. But it says we qualified 6th, ended up 18th. I remember we got, I don't remember how far into the race it was, halfway maybe. We got in a wreck coming off of turn 4 with Frank Kimmel's brother, Bill, and 1 or 2 other cars, and tore the car all up. And I knew right then, as soon as that happened and the car come to a stop, that was it. I had had enough, and I was done. Done with the situation. Not totally done with racing altogether, but I was done with the situation. So when I got out of the car, I was walking back down pit road, and my ex-wife met me halfway between there and the pits. And I grabbed a hold of her, and I whispered in her ear, and I told her, I said, I'm done. And that's all I said to her. That was it. So we still had 3 races to go. And I didn't even tell Gary what was going on. So, yeah, it was a bad time for me. But I made that decision, and that's exactly what happened. Because I just had enough. I mean, it was enough. And for those that think that you knew my father, you didn't know him like his son knew him. So some people may want to make a comment or whatever. They ain't got a clue. Never did, never will. That's just the way it is. We lived it every single day. Now, mind you, now, not to want to talk out of both sides of my mouth, but Dad got me where I was at. If it wasn't for him, it would have never happened. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have quit driving for him either. It just, a father-son situation or business is very hard to do, especially when your money runs tight and runs dry. It makes it hard on everybody. So I don't want to hear that crap people think they know Dad and try to tell me how it was when I lived it every day. So then we go to Winchester. So Winchester, there again, we had to run an older speedway car because both short track cars was tore up. So we had to run a speedway car, qualified 19th, and ended up 19th. So, probably at this point, more than likely, I was just running out the year and be done with it. So then we go to Charlotte. I remember this race too. This was another one of those deals there. Well, where we qualified 21st and ended up 11th. But, racing was difficult. The money was tight. It was hard to find people that wanted to help because most of the people was volunteer. So you couldn't, it was hard to guarantee who was going to go and not go because, it was just all volunteers. So you had to, like walking on eggshells. You had to get who you could get to go and try to make it work. And this was one of those races. We had a gentleman on the crew that, you got to give him A for effort, but he just didn't have an in him to do what he was there doing, And I'm trying to be nice about it, but that's just the way it is. So we come in on a pit stop and change tires. And I went out, got back up to speed, and I was driving this car as hard as I could drive it and still wasn't going anywhere. I mean, it was just, it was horrible. So I called Gary and I said, Gary, I'm driving this thing as hard as I can go, and I don't know what's going on here. It's very difficult to drive. So another lap or two, I hear this voice on the radio. He says, well, figured out what the hell's going on. So I'm coming down the back stretch, and he's talking to me probably when I get off of 2, and I'm at speed. He says, somebody put the wrong side tire on the wrong side, put a left on the right or right on the left, whichever, doesn't matter. When they picked it up to carry it over the wall, they picked up the wrong tire. So I said, well, I'm coming in. He says, no, not yet. We ain't ready. I didn't care. I came in, parked in the pit stall and shut the car off. I said, change the tires. Ain't going nowhere. I didn't tell him this, but I said, I told myself I ain't going nowhere until the tires are changed. So they proceeded to change the tires. I started the car back up and went on back out on the racetrack. So yeah, that included with the money issue. It just, I had enough. So then we go to my favorite racetrack, not really, but Atlanta, to wrap the whole deal up. It says here we qualified 25th and ended up 9th. So 9th at Atlanta, it was a pretty good day for us, considering what has transpired there in the past races. So, that pretty much is the end of it as far as me driving full time and driving for Dad. That was it. Atlanta was it. So we finished second in the points, which is hard to believe, but we did. We had 3 wins. It says here the top 5s. We had 12 top 5s and 15 top tens, which really, I mean, really is a pretty decent year. Ended up second in points. And I won 6 poles that year. So I guess it was, for what was going on, it didn't seem like it was a good year. But apparently, if you look at the sheets, it wasn't a bad year, really. But that's pretty much the story behind that. It was just time for me to do something else. And like I said, my daughter was involved in all that. I didn't want to miss her growing up. And it just wasn't, my heart just wasn't in it to do it anymore, especially doing it like that. I just had enough. Traveling up and down the road all the time and putting up with the rest of the crap. It got to be, it was too much. And that was the end of it. But there's a couple of the races I ran in ARCA. That'll make another video on that. And I dabbed in a little bit into the ASA circuit in 2001. But that'll do it for this video. So if you would, please subscribe, like, share, and most definitely leave a comment. It's important that you leave a comment, give it a thumbs up, share it, and make sure and subscribe. So until next time, hang in there. Hope you have a good day. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.